Hi, Angie.
John.
Angie, there's something I want to say.
Okay, I'm listening.
Oh, actually, no, it doesn't matter. Nothing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
What? What he's saying right now?
Sometimes, this is something I've been thinking about. Sometimes there are things that we don't say to clients. I was on a
Oh.
coaching call recently where there was so much going on with the client that if I said everything that I could have said, I think her brain might have exploded. So I didn't
Ooh.
say as much as I could have. I had to really decide what I wanted to say to her. And so it got me thinking about the times where we don't say, or where we don't really say everything to a client, where we hold stuff back. And there are also times where there are things, people, sometimes ourselves included, probably, where we say things that we probably shouldn't say to a client, or there are things where we don't always know exactly
Mm.
what we should or shouldn't say to the client. I thought, yeah, we could talk about that this week. What do you think?
I think that is a great topic because I don't think we haven't really talked about that in the past. So,
We
definitely a
haven't
great
much.
place to delve into for sure.
Welcome to the Coaching Clinic with John and Angie.
The show for professional coaches who want to develop their skills and grow their business.
Follow the show on your favorite podcast app.
And join us every Wednesday for new episodes.
Let's do it then, because let me explain the situation with the client who I was on a call
Yeah.
with. So this was a recorded call for my other show. So it's a free coaching for the client, but on the proviso that she lets me publish the episode for other people to benefit from as well.
Okay.
And in that is that there was so many things that I could see going on for what that she seemed unaware of in her business that were problems. There were problems with the structure, problems with the website, problems with the delivery and the performance aspects of it, problems with the talk titles and abstracts. Everything I looked at, I sort of think, okay, kind of doing all the right things, but not doing all the right things in the right way. So I could go through the whole list. I could go through the whole list of everything I've seen here, but I think her brain might just explode in her head. So I ended up having to say, what does she most need to hear right now? What's going to make the biggest difference to her right now that she does need to hear and could do some work on, even if all the other stuff was still important, less important than this. And that meant that I had to be very careful not to try and overwhelm or overload her, but to give her enough understanding and guidance around the main problem that she couldn't really see and didn't know how to correct for herself.
Well, so, interestingly, as you were talking, the first thing that really came to my mind is that what do I say to my clients? That as a coach, that's a very kind of slippery slope because some of my clients I am also a consultant to. So when I'm just doing pure coaching, it's not a lot of what I'm saying as much as it's what I'm asking, right? To help them dive the deeper. So I think there has to first be kind of the differentiation between what am I saying? Because I guess this was a business client, right? That you were talking to. And it
Yes.
was somewhat of a consulting, right? You're coaching her, but there's also
Right.
some consulting to that. So I think it's important to just with people listening, because people want to be, well, wait a minute, you always say, but so there is a difference between are you purely coaching or if it's your own business, because there's companies out there that are, coaching companies that are do not consult, do not share opinions, do not share experiences. I don't go for that. I
Yeah.
always feel as a coach, part of experience of either life or as a coach is that you're able to share things because maybe you've been there, but I think it's fair to say that if you're purely coaching, but then you have a consulting moment, you say that, hey, you know what? I don't normally come to our sessions this way, as you know, but would you mind if I shared a perspective or an experience that I had similar to this? And be careful, right? How deeply you go. Don't make it about you. It should not be a 10-minute dissertation on the story of your business or whatever. So you do have, but when you work for yourself, listen, you have the ability to kind of do what you want to do and not. So there's that piece of it. So if it's in a mixed bag kind of, relationship and dynamic, I definitely think we have to be very aware of the person to whom we are speaking, coaching, consulting, because to your point, we might have some clear answers in certain cases, but are they ready to hear that? Are we going to push them into overwhelm? Are we going to have more negative results than positive results? So you had to refrain. You had to go,
Yeah.
wait a minute. Let me not overwhelm her. Let me
I think
prioritize the message here.
I think whether it's coaching, pure coaching or consulting or whatever, I do think there's an important element of considering what do they probably most need to hear right now, and what do they most need to get, and
Yeah,
what are the sort of questions or ways that we can guide them through to that. If we're doing it through coaching questions, the pulling the answers out of them, we still want to guide and direct the questioning to try and take them at least down that track of, all right,
sure.
let's explore this area, and you will give the answers, but I'm going to guide you, shine the
Mm-hmm.
light over here. In consultancy, it's a little different, but the principle is the same. You need to look at what can they realistically manage, what's most important here, what do I think they most need to get out of this, even if that's not ultimately what they end up getting. But yeah, it's essential that we say the right thing. That you and I have talked before, I think many times actually on the show, about how we don't share personal
Yeah.
information really
Mm-hmm.
with clients.
Mm-hmm.
And I still think that's one of the things, what not to say to clients, not to share stuff that's too personal. There might be exceptions, and we've talked about those before as well, where there are times where you might share something a bit personal, but ultimately you're not inviting them into your life. They're inviting you into theirs as an
Mm-hmm.
external observer, guide, somebody who's outside of them and their lives, who can see things more clearly than they can, and potentially help guide and direct and whatever through whatever they're going through.
Well, let me ask you this. So when you thought about this, when we started talking about this today, is it, I guess the other question could be, is this also a topical question, right? Are there topics that you just avoid in your sessions with people, consulting or
Yeah.
otherwise, doesn't even matter. And I'm going to raise hands and feet to this and say there are absolute no-nos that I don't even allow within my sessions. So remember way back when I was talking about a client that I had that, told me that she identified as the female biological body part, and that was a challenging. So here's the thing. I just think of it as the family holidays or, gatherings that you go to. People always make the joke, we don't talk politics, we don't talk religion. And I will not talk about any of those things unless it is relevant to their growth and me needing to have an understanding. So with that client, remember I said at the time when she said, well, I identify as, and I had to take a breath and remain right as a coach and be professional and not go, what? Right. Because this was many, many, many years ago, folks. So it wasn't yesterday where everybody's identifying as, and that's fine. But, but, and my answer to her was this. I said, okay, so let me ask you this. Is there a relevance to our coaching and growth that you think this could, where it might show itself? And she said, no, I'm not right now. I think that you just might want to know. Okay, fine. Let's get to why you're really here. And I will say once or twice it came up. I was transcending and I was all right. I can't relate to it. I can't help you because it's not something it's in my at the time was in my stratosphere. So the point that I'm making is that there are some taboo triggering, hate the word, but look at you just have to know as a professional that unless it is absolutely relevant to their growth and their outcomes, that you stay away from certain subjects because you might listen, they may insult you and you might insult them by just matter of factly saying something, right? So have you ever, let me ask you this. This is a really funny question. Have you ever been insulted by a client indirectly? Now, I'm not saying they said, hey, John, you're a butthole, outwardly, but have they ever said anything? Maybe they didn't know you were gay and they said, oh, those gay bloppity blahs, right? I'm making up the scenarios, but have you ever?
Nothing is springing to mind, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think I've really ever there are times when I some people have said some stuff that's maybe a little uncomfortable on coaching calls, but I
Sure.
don't think I've ever really been in a situation where I felt personally kind of attacked or or anything like that. But that could also be because I think I do try to stay pretty detached in that sense. I think it's maybe not all coaches would agree with me on this, but I do feel for me, there's an element to which part of my goal on a coaching call is to be emotionally detached from the stuff that they can't be emotionally detached from because it's their life. To be able to take a sort of pragmatic, dispassionate view of what's going on. It's all right, well, is that actually good or beneficial, or is it not? Is I'm not there to judge whether it's good or bad. I'm just there to say, all right, this is what's going. This seems that's what's going on. This is seems how you feel about that, and check in. Is that correct? Because otherwise, there's always the danger. A lot of coaches, I think, are very very empathic people. There's a very strong danger in coaching relationships sometimes of over
Yeah.
empathizing with the clients that you're working with.
Sure.
And that could end up with
Absolutely.
you being pulled into whatever drama or emotional situation they're going through, especially if you've had similar experiences. So I think it's very important to be able to take that step back and be a little more analytical.
Of course.
I view
Yeah.
my role as a coach partly as well to be listening as much to what they're saying and to what they're not saying.
Well, and listen, and I 10,000% I agree with you, right? Your job as a coach is to not show up with an agenda, right? To show up organically and just allow the sessions to flow and you be the guide, right? We've talked about that. That's basic coaching to me, basic coaching 101. Not easy to do. I have inadvertently been insulted by clients who say, something just derogatory about whether it's a strong belief, whether okay, let me not dance around the dream here. There was a client I had probably about 4 years ago who just said something about my religion, but they didn't know they were saying it about my religion. And they kind of went on and on about it. And I was really getting kind of, the coach in me wanted to kind of go, no, no, just shut up. And then after 4 minutes of this rant, I said, "Hey, so and so, do you mind if I pause you? Because it sounds kind of you're a little bit on this rant, and is there a purpose to what you're sharing today?" And I just so this is pragmatic me, right? This is me being in coach mode about any rant, right? I didn't want to approach it. They were ranting anyway, right? And it was 4 minutes. I was watching, and I'm okay enough. I would have done that anyway with any other topic as well. And they said something, well, I have to just tell you, I just can't stand these people and the way that they think. And I was, okay. So I said, okay, so let me just share something with you. So to ensure the safety and the progress of our coaching relationship, I am those people. So let's make an agreement to unless you don't want to coach with me as a result of that. Oh no. It was very I have to be honest, John, I was so shocked. I'm sitting there with an adult professional, older than me person that was being very, and I did. I have to be honest. I tried. I came in and said, "Hey, is this helpful? Is this your growth?" And it was like, "Well, let me just tell you about them." And I was, so what do you not say? I will tell you that I did end that relationship because I knew, I'm being honest here, that knowing how that, because it was that, maybe he would, maybe all of my clients feel that way. But if they haven't shared it with me, then I'm allowed to be, sitting in my bliss of ignorance. But with this person, I knew as a coach that you know what I kept hearing? Those people. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm those. So I didn't. I didn't. I did 2 weeks later end the relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I could understand that. There are clients I backed away from because of misalignments, things I just couldn't support,
Sure.
things I couldn't support them with, or wouldn't feel comfortable working with them on. And I made the call. I generally made the call not to have the conversation with them, as they didn't really need to know why I was backing away. Just that I just felt I wasn't the right coach for them. That was really all they needed to
Yeah,
know, because ultimately, I probably said it before on the show, but I seem my job as a coach, anyone's job as a coach, is not to disabuse anybody of their beliefs just because you think
absolutely.
yours are right.
Sure.
That's not what you're there for. But and if that's what you want to do, you need to probably get out of coaching and maybe go into politics, but or religion.
Well, what's your big no-no? So what are the things that you so for me, it's those couple of things that I just feel can be very triggering. And like you
Yeah,
said, maybe we don't get into our whole life stories and we keep things really personal, more personal, and we don't cross that. Remember, I said that plexiglass, I can still see you, but I can't touch you. So, what are other lines in the sand for you on things you don't say to clients?
sure. I don't ever say, but I don't ever say judgments on their personality or their actions or anything like that.
Mm,
That's not for me to do.
yeah, fair.
I can ask them how they feel about things and what they think of themselves, or whatever. I can get them to express that, and that's fine. That's what I'm there for. But it's not for me to say this is right, this is wrong, this is who you should be, this is who you shouldn't be. It's very, very different, very
You think people
incorrect.
are actually able to stay out of I'm just asking since we're here talking about it, and I'd be curious to listeners, are you if you're already a coach, are you are you actually able, I'm just saying this, to stay out of that judgment zone? Because that's what happens. I don't know, I probably talked about this at the beginning of last year in one of our recordings, that I didn't realize that there was even good judgment as a coach. And when I was coaching somebody, there was something that she shared, and I was, that is so great. I'm so happy that you were able to do that. And in the next session, she was, there's something I need to share with you. And I said, okay. And she's, last session, I was feeling pretty judged by you. And I thought, in my head, I was thinking, I said nothing but good things to her, which was true. And I said, I'm so sorry. I said, can you elaborate? Because I'm not recognizing it.
Yeah.
And she said, well, I did X, Y, and Z, and which I'd been working on and avoiding. And, I got there and you told me it was great. And to me, that was a judgment. And I was, wow, that was a big moment for me as a coach, because I think we always think of judgment as good or bad. And her mind was, and I said, listen, I'm so curious, not for me, but tell me your perspective. And she said, by you saying I did something great, to me, it was interpreted that everything else I did before was bad. Wow. Okay.
I think there's probably a lot of other areas that this could lead us into that I think we won't get to
Yeah.
today. But I would love to hear from you, our listener, what either anything that you said on a call that turned out to be not the right thing to say, or that you've heard other
Yeah.
coaches saying or doing on calls. You think, oh no, you shouldn't be doing that, because I think this that could lead us to some interesting discussions as to what we should or shouldn't say to clients, or the right way to show
Mhm.
up with things, or how much we should hold back or how much we should open up, all of those kinds of things. It's good stuff to know in as a coach and could be very helpful. But I think we can probably wrap things up there today now.
Sounds a plan.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Do you have a question for the coaching clinic?
Reach out on LinkedIn to connect with Angie and John.
Leave us a voicemail or video message and we will feature you on the show.
You can also leave up to 90-second voicemail for free on www.speakpipe.com/the Coaching Clinic podcast.
We'd love to hear from you.
See you next time.
Bye for now.